Yeah, this is really crazy stuff I'm seeing today. We've got a debate going about an Albanese government tax cut that's so small it barely exists. All that when we should be freaking about the huge danger last night's budget actually admitted to and then ignored. But no, it's all about this alleged tax cut, just $5 a week, and even then you have to wait 15 months to get it. $5 can't even buy a family one Big Mac a week. But the Prime Minister was so sure this was a big winner, this tax cut, that he tried to get Parliament today to make it an instant law after the opposition said it was against it.
Storm clouds are gathering in the global economy as well. Trade disruptions are rising. China's growth is slowing. War is still raging in Europe and a ceasefire in the Middle East is breaking down.
Okay, so that was the great warning that Jim Chalmers gave us, that things were really, really bad. And the whole budget could go to the Scheisenhauser. But, you know, what makes this budget so crazy is that after giving us this truth, and after a budget that acknowledges that economic growth is weak, doesn't admit that living standards are actually down, and admits that inflation next year is going to go up again, well, after all that, and the fact that we face a possible war from China within 5 years, what is almost criminal, shocking, is that Jim Chalmers then ignored everything you just saw him admit. Now, if Chalmers had actually just listened to himself, you'd have to conclude that his patriotic duty would be to do everything he could to prepare us for trouble. He would have to build up our savings, build up our military, and build up our economy. We have to get more resilient and all be prepared for the day when it all hits the Scheisenhauser. Instead, and this I find so shocking, it's unbelievable, Chalmers did almost the exact opposite in this budget last night. He put his party above his country in a budget that was plainly designed to get Labor elected, not make Australia stronger. Go through those three things. Building up our savings. Chalmers instead has gone on another spendathon, so vast that every budget in the decade to come will now be in deficit, in the red, with gross debt hitting $1 trillion next year, worse than last year's budget predicted. As for building up our defences, Chalmers instead promises only a very, very leisurely increase to military spending. There's nothing new really in last night's budget. Very leisurely increase to just 2.3% of our economy. But only a decade away from now. And that is when the Trump administration is saying, Australia, you've got to get to 3% minimum fast before it's too late. As for building up our economy, another Chalmers fail. He's weakening our economy instead. Now, this climate-obsessed government is actually doubling down on the green energy policies that have helped drive up power prices and drive big manufacturers, heavy industry out of business. It's increasing investments in green schemes that have turned into money pits. Remember the green hydrogen projects? Flop, 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 flop. It's rejecting the nuclear power the Liberals are promising that is our only guarantee of reliable emissions-free electricity to keep the economy running. And last night it did flat nothing to cut the green tape and the black tape that are strangling investments. Yeah, it's absolutely no wonder. I mean, no wonder that living standards under this government have fallen sharply and are likely to fall again. Now, that alone should be the election decider. Your living standards are down. Now, if you think I'm being too hard on Jim Chalmers, I invite you to imagine what he would say himself about this budget if it was a Liberal one. If it was the Liberals who just handed a budget with a tricky election bribe or 2 or 3 or 4, with a decade of deficits to come, with spending so out of control that we'll add $100 billion to the national debt in just 3 years and push our gross debt next year to $1 trillion, and all for nothing? We don't have to imagine what he'd say at all, because let me now play you what this same Jim Chalmers said 4 years ago about Scott Morrison's budget, when he falsely claimed the Liberals would leave us $1 trillion debt.
In their own budget papers, after $100 billion in spending, $1 trillion in debt, Australian workers are still being asked to cop a cut in their real wages. Now, in the budget last night, there were deficits as far as the eye could see, but there was a deficit of vision in particular. It's remarkable that the government could spend so much money in such a short period of time and have so little to show for it.
You couldn't have said it better about that guy's own budget last night. That hypocrite has just delivered exactly the budget he once condemned and pretended to describe. And he's done that when our danger has never been so great.